and welcome to the Lorna Whiston Schools podcast, the place where we connect with parents from around the globe to share our experiences on a variety of topics. We are a leading school and have been based in Singapore for over 40 years. We specialize in developing a lifelong love for learning, and our focus is on working with our parents to develop their children's 21st century skills, transforming them into the talented, critical thinkers of tomorrow. I am your host, Sarah Stillman, Head of Curriculum, and today we will be talking about the benefits of online learning and teaching with our guests, coming all the way from Kenya, LW online teachers, Adam and Jonathan. Hi, Adam and Jonathan, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
So glad to be here.
That's great. We're so happy to have you on our podcast. Now, both of you have had such interesting career backgrounds that have led you to your current lifestyle, teaching online for LW Online while traveling the world. Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about yourselves and your previous experience teaching?
Sure. So I'm Adam Shiring, and I've been teaching for Lorna Whiston. This is my 7th year now teaching for Lorna Whiston, 7th school year. And I've been teaching overseas for 10 years. Actually, this year is my 10th year. So I've taught in Japan for about 3 years. And then I came over to Singapore in 2014, started working for Lorna Whiston. I was in Lorna Whiston, Singapore for 5 years. Then I went back home to the US for a year, came back to Lorna Whiston. Opportunity opened up in KL. So I moved to the Kuala Lumpur Center in 2020. Then the pandemic hit and everything kind of went up, and switched over to the online platform while I was in KL. And a lot of experience, a lot of relevant experience to online learning. It's not something that I ever thought that I would be doing actually full time, but circumstances have forced us into that now. But it's been a really fun experience so far. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Wow, I didn't realize you had been at Lorna Whiston for so long. That's awesome. You also did some public school teaching when you were back at the States, right? I remember you talking about you were doing some teaching in the public schools back there as well.
Yeah, so when I was back in the US, I was mostly working as a relief teacher or substitute teacher, but I did get a position in 2019 as a long-term substitute for a class, which I did for about 3 months in an inner city school. And that was also a very eye-opening experience for me, and probably one of the reasons why I rushed back to Asia to teach.
And how about you, Jonathan? Do you want to share a little bit about your background and how you ended up teaching online for us and traveling the world?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jonathan Frega, and I'm a little bit new to the scene here at Lorna Whiston, but I've enjoyed every step of the way. So I studied performance arts in college, and right after I graduated, I had the opportunity to go to Africa and use those skills in classroom environments. And just to be able to teach kids, that kind of lit a spark underneath me to pursue that kind of work globally. And since then, I've had the opportunity to work in various schools abroad, some in the Caribbean as well. And it has been such an incredible opportunity to get to know kids of different cultures and really be there for them and kind of just create those relationships with kids. And so I'm really thankful for that. So I am teaching both speech and drama and English enrichment, and it has been such a learning experience for me, but also a fun one at that, because speech and drama is its own world. And so is English enrichment, and they just bring different kinds of experiences to the table, whether it be just learning experiences or working with kids in different ways than you would in different scenarios. So I've really enjoyed getting to do that. And I've loved the most seeing my kids grow so far, just out of the curriculum that we've been using with them, and see them become more confident speakers and confident readers, that has really been a joy to see. So I'm very thankful that I joined the team and that I've had this amazing opportunity to witness the growth, and it's just been only a few months now. So only 5 months, I think, actually. So it's awesome.
Oh, that's great. So getting to the topic of today about online learning and the benefits and even advantages of online learning over learning in person and the face-to-face classes. Online learning is not brand new, we know this, and its proven effectiveness across age groups and disciplines has been studied for decades by academics. But since we have been catapulted into these extraordinary times, where students and teachers and parents have had no choice to adapt to the online classroom whenever the lockdowns demanded it and technology has allowed it, there has been much greater concern worldwide about its efficacy. I'm sure you've talked to many parents who sometimes might worry that there will be little social connection between the teacher and student in the classroom, for example, or that students will simply disengage completely from the material and that they will ultimately perform worse on tests than they would if they were going to a regular enrichment class. How would you respond to some of these concerns from parents or from teachers, for that matter?
This is actually a really well-timed question because I had a meeting with a parent last week after one of my classes. He was someone who just signed up for class, and it was a trial class, and he had those concerns. He voiced those concerns, so he wanted to meet with me for about 10 minutes after our class just to talk about that. And it was such a really nice conversation to be able to explain to him step by step what Lorna Whiston does to give a solid foundation in class that promotes an interactive atmosphere, because there are so many opportunities for the students to communicate with each other and with the teacher. And another thing that you'll notice over time is that students become more and more excited to be in class, more eager to be a part of that. And even if they've never met the teacher in person, or they've never met their classmates in person, they know what to expect. They know how each other interacts. And so having that long-lasting relationship being built between student and teacher, and student peer relationships as well, is really effective. And so, to any parent who's questioning the effectiveness of online teaching, right now it is the best course in the situation that we have now. And if you know how to do it well and do it right, then your student is going to, or your child is going to learn just as much, if not more, as being in class. So I think that's a really, really great question. And I love hearing and getting to explain that to other parents as well. I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I find it really interesting because Jonathan and I have two very unique perspectives coming into the online platform. So when Jonathan started teaching, he started straight away online. So he's never met his students in person, which I think is really interesting because he has that perspective of getting to build those relationships purely online, which is pretty interesting. Whereas with my students, the majority of my students I have met face-to-face. I met them in the KL Center in 2020 before we switched to the online platform. So I've sort of been able to see their growth and their progress from face-to-face interactions to online interactions. And I think the biggest thing that I take away from that is the online platform is just so much more dynamic, in my opinion, than it was face-to-face for many of the students. I find that the ones who were very shy in person are actually much more comfortable to speak up in class and contribute to class conversation, which I love. And there's just so many opportunities for students to sort of work on their self-motivation, and also for them to work on their own time management and things like that. It sort of pushes them to do that a little bit more. Yeah, that kind of ties into the social emotional approaches that we promote here at Lorna Whiston. It really focuses in on those and gives them an extra push into sort of taking more responsibility for their own learning online than they necessarily would in the physical classroom.
Right. Learning those skills like self-management, personal responsibility, and self-awareness, and all of that. Yeah. I love hearing you guys talk about that. Such a great point about these very different perspectives, even though you were agreeing on a lot of things. But I was thinking about that earlier too, because all of my online students, because I do teach a few one-on-one students, are students I have never met in person before. And yes, it's completely different. Of course, during the circuit breaker in Singapore, where I teach, when I've had those students online, yes, it's a very different situation where you already know your students and then they're online, but you have to learn a different side of them. Even though you have the advantage of having a relationship, teacher-student relationship with those students before you're teaching online, you still have to see how they are going to learn and act and respond to stimuli online. So it's almost like a new group of students. Yes, you have that trust and that relationship, but you need to build on that relationship because it's very different from the student's standpoint as well. It's really interesting. And the students that I have, similar to you, Jonathan, that I've never met, I felt like I was actually concerned that I wouldn't be able to develop that teacher-student bond as well, where, you really get to know their quirks and their personalities and what they like and don't like and all of that. And actually, you do over time.
Yes.
It just time, like you said, for them to really come out of their shell, just like if they're in a physical class, to get to know them, and then for them to let their hair down and sort of, be themselves in class.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I find truly enjoyable and also humorous at times, because when we have those moments where they really show who they are, then the whole class will embrace that, and then they have a quirky thing that they like to do or whatnot, and so we all kind of get involved in that and say, well, what do you like to do, and how about you, let's share this right now, let's get to know each other a little bit more. And there are always moments where we can open the door and allow more interaction and more time to share, because that doesn't just strengthen our English skills, it strengthens our emotional skills. It's a really wonderful way and opportunity for them to be able to break loose. And I have one class who there's one student in this class, and he is obsessed with all the superheroes and comics and all this stuff, and me being the same way. It's just really cool, right? We always share one thing right at the beginning of class, one cool thing that we saw or read during the week, and then usually other people chime in, and it's just a really, really cool opportunity.
Well, that's great. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that I think I've learned more about my students' personalities online than I ever did in the classroom. And I think that goes back to, I think it kind of goes back to that, what you initially were asking is that, people have concerns about the efficacy of online learning. And I think many people sort of jump to the conclusion that the camera or the computer and the camera are sort of a barrier between learning, but I've seen it as more of an entrance into really getting to know the students. It makes them more comfortable. Maybe because that barrier is there, they feel a little bit more willing to open up and share more about themselves than they would, because in the classroom, you have the typical, teachers at the front of the class, students are that sort of lecture kind of style where they may not feel as comfortable to speak up, but online it just sort of opens up the environment a little bit more.
So it's making it more of a democratic learning environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't thought of that before, actually, in this context. That's really interesting, because you do all have your cameras either in a line or, Marsha Brady style in the I guess, it's a bit of an equalizer, I guess, in that way. Besides what you were saying, of course, Adam. That's a really good point. So interesting. Okay, so that actually starts to answer the next question I was going to ask you, which was, what, in your opinion, are the biggest advantages for your students learning online? But Adam, you've already sort of answered that a little bit, but is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
I think probably the biggest advantage that I've found is for the students who perhaps needed more support in the physical classroom, because as we mentioned before, the online platform allows students to take more responsibility for their own learning. The ones who needed more support in the classroom have actually improved quite a lot. And I've seen a lot of improvement in those students. So I just feel that the online platform allows for a lot of responsibility and
maybe more opportunities for their learning.
Yeah, more opportunities, more dynamic learning, just more ways to learn, and maybe that's part of it, is like that the whole the constant synergy of online learning, like sharing things constantly, using PowerPoints, those types of things, just is so interactive that it just allows so many different avenues for the students to learn, rather than just doing a worksheet, turning it in, writing a composition, turning it in. There's so much more collaboration and synergy in the classroom, I feel.
So that's great, Adam. I would have to say for me, one of the biggest advantages of teaching online and learning online in general is the fact that there is a safe space and almost like a little bubble for specific learners that tend to be more emotionally stressed when they're around, like a classroom environment. Now, a classroom environment in person has its advantages, obviously, as well, but there are some students that have really shown through the process by having that moment to themselves in a smaller classroom online, and also just through being able to communicate, that has given them more opportunities to get their to grow academically and mentally. And I have noticed that with many students who have come from a place of being extremely shy on the first day to warming up almost immediately in class. And it's a wonderful transformation to notice. And I think that speaks to online learning in itself. And it's not just about the curriculum, it's also about who's teaching it. And you really have to make sure that you stick to being yourself, but also keeping that classroom control. And that's what's really going to help shine through for online learning, I think, is a big advantage for that. I really have gotten the chance to speak with students about certain things, like if there's something that's going on in class that is not something good, then I'll take that moment and I'll make a life lesson out of it. And wow. I have noticed, yeah, it's really nice, because you would think that life lessons are more easily given face to face, but these kids are able to take those life lessons and think, oh wow, that is true, maybe that wasn't the best thing to say. Or also with that, maybe they are feeling down. I've had a class where there's a bunch of Sec 2 kids, and they are just so stressed out about exams after exams after exams.
Yeah.
And you just have to say, okay, guys, you have the tools for success. You know what to do, and take some time out of the lesson and really give them, take a small portion out of the lesson and really give them that moment to encourage them. And that's the beauty of online learning, when everything works together functionally. It's just giving that last minute motivation and support before they go on to do the next thing.
And how amazing that they can make that connection with the teacher from their living room.
Yeah, I know.
Right now, I mean, I do believe that online learning will flourish and continue for many years to come beyond the pandemic. But like during a pandemic, during these extraordinary times, that they're able to make that connection and make those friendships and socialize and have that life lesson moment with Mr. Johnson, and for that to give them a bit of a boost, at least, at the very.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it speaks to all teachers who teach online, because it's not always easy, but it is so rewarding. It is hands down a really rewarding thing to be able to do.
I was just going to ask you guys if you wanted to talk about what you think the benefits of learning in a classroom where students collaborate on assignments with classmates from different countries might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that opportunity, in my opinion, is just that is the number one thing that makes online learning so amazing is that opportunity to collaborate with students from around the world. So currently, I mean, our classes at Lorna Whiston currently are mostly comprised of students from Singapore and Malaysia, but even still, it's a very beneficial to have students from different, even if they're slightly different backgrounds and environments, collaborating together. But to be able to expand on that and have students from all around the world, or even have their teachers living in different countries, I think is also extremely beneficial for the students as well. It kind of creates a little bit of excitement and just so many opportunities for learning things that are even just even outside of the curriculum, but just learning about where their teachers are in the world, having them think on a more global scale, in sort of outside of their bubble, and learning about different places around the world. Yeah, to me, that's the best part of online learning.
Really great points.
I think right now it's very interesting to me. The classmates, they actually get to learn about and ask each other questions sometimes. I have students from both Malaysia and Singapore. So yeah, the students have had this incredible opportunity to talk to each other about different things going on in their countries, and things that are the way things are handled. And it's a great way to open a discussion up to have a more well-rounded kind of viewpoint on life. And that's another thing that's not like specifically in the curriculum, but also just gets to be featured in class, and it helps them grow in another direction as well. So I've really enjoyed the fact that these kids are so willing and open to ask these questions as well without being asked to. So I love that fact about online learning.
So many benefits to global collaboration and kids connecting.
Absolutely.
Kids learning how to connect with each other globally in really positive ways, because they're already connected. They're almost born into this connectivity right now. And then for us as teachers to be able to assist them in that process of having very positive connections is really exciting. Really
Very
amazing.
exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the advantages of teaching online for teachers who might be listening, or anyone else who is curious to know what a typical week looks like for you as an online teacher.
So I think the most obvious advantage for online teachers is flexibility. That's the number one thing that I think we found really beneficial and helpful for us. Of course, the class times are not flexible, but basically everything else outside of that is flexible, whether it's your lesson planning, your marking, everything that goes along with it. Is you get to make your own hours. Basically, there's no set times to having to be in a center, which those things have their advantages as well. I guess if a teacher needs a little bit more structure, I've sort of had to teach myself to be more structured with my time, which
we're always learning and growing. All of us.
Exactly.
We're always learning and growing, even adults.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, flexibility would be the number one thing, advantage, I would say, for people who are interested in maybe getting into online teaching. So Jonathan and I both work Wednesdays through Sundays, and because of where we are in the world right now, which we'll probably get into a little bit more soon, we're 5 hours behind Singapore. So our classes start in the morning, whereas in Singapore, the first class would start about 4 p.m. We start at 11 a.m. So it's actually quite nice because we start in the late morning, we finish by early afternoon, and then we have the rest of the day ahead of us. That's for Wednesdays through Fridays. Now, for the weekends, it's quite interesting. So the first classes at Lorna Whiston on weekends, in center and online, started at 8:30, but either 8:30 online or 9 o'clock in center, right? So
sure as well.
Yeah. So for us, that means that we're waking up where we are now at 3 a.m. to teach our first class of the day, but it sounds pretty scary, kind of sounds terrible, but it actually has gone pretty smoothly so far. We haven't had any issues with it. Just getting the students, actually getting the students motivated as well that early in the morning. It's sort of, we kind of help each other out because obviously we're waking up at 3 in the morning. So we're trying to overcompensate, and that's actually making the students as well sort of become more active and engage a little bit more. So
Yeah, because they're sleepy too. A lot
yes,
of them have
exactly.
made it happen. Like, and at least I don't know if you've experienced this teaching children online in the morning, but when I was teaching during the circuit breakers here at 8:30 in the morning, they're still eating breakfast right in front of me on screen.
Yeah.
I don't blame the parents. I know it's extremely busy. They're very strange times, but yeah, they still need to be lifted up with your energy, even at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes,
Let alone
absolutely.
3 a.m.
Yeah, I find that we rally together.
That's great.
So Saturdays and Sundays are a bit intense because we have our full days of teaching, but then we have Mondays and Tuesdays off, which we typically take that time to relax and recharge and work on a little of our own personal passions, which we'll get into a little bit here. But yeah, the typical week, the school week is really, it's not, I don't find it to be overwhelming at all. And I've found that after doing it for over a year now, like the marking has become very manageable. It's not overwhelming in any way. So yeah, it goes back to the flexibility thing. Just being able to make your own hours and take breaks when you need to mentally recharge. And yeah, it's been good so far for me.
And
Yeah.
how many countries again have you guys been teaching in the last 5 months?
This is the fourth one, I think.
This is the fourth one.
Well, including Malaysia, it would be 5, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were teaching in Malaysia as well, but this is the 5th country. Yeah. We usually take it's usually 1 month. That way we don't like being in transit too often because we want to make sure that we're in a solid location and just able to commit ourselves to the tasks that we have to fill out, all the marking and all that stuff. So it's really helpful for us to just take a month or longer somewhere and not be moving every single, however long.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that would definitely get a little overwhelming trying to manage teaching and constantly moving around. So it's nice to have a home base for a while where you can just sort of focus on work. But be in a new environment. It's really the best of both worlds. We didn't really clarify this earlier. So once we switched over to full-time online teachers in March, we left Kuala Lumpur and we started traveling full-time. So we started off in Turkey. We were there for 6 weeks. Then we went to Georgia for a month. Then we went to Greece for 6 weeks. And then we've been now in Kenya for
1 week.
1 week. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you in Kenya so far?
It's wonderful. It's definitely presented itself with challenges, and I think that's also really cool because you can, while you're learning how, for me, it's been a whole year of learning how to teach online, learning how the system works at Lorna Whiston, learning how to be a traveler now, adapting to different cultures. There's just so many things that, it's like always learning. So
Don't forget you're learning all kinds of editing skills and
That's true.
video skills and filming skills. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about your channel?
Yes, sure. So we decided, it's been a long time passion of mine ever since I first traveled to Africa to teach, to be able to document my experiences around the world and to bring a different perspective on it and try and show people what it's like to actually communicate and experience things like a local and really bridge that the gap between cultures. And so I started my YouTube channel in March called Bridging the Map. And it's just an opportunity for us to show other people what that is like specifically. And it's been such an incredible opportunity to learn editing, to learn the video skills, and to really hone in on my craft in my spare time, and really receive positive feedback from people who have appreciated the time that we took to talk to them and get to know more about them. And we've learned things that I never would have expected to learn about a country, from the people specifically. And that has been truly life-changing so far, and it's just beginning. So yeah, that's basically, we've been at that for a while now, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. It's been great.
That's amazing. I know I keep repeating the word amazing to talk about this, but really you guys are very inspiring. And I'm sure I know that you're very inspiring both in your online classrooms and then also just as role models for living your best life. That's
Yes, absolutely.
Always striving for the work-life balance.
So do you feel that you're able to bring all these new travel experiences and the learning that you're doing throughout it into your online classrooms?
Absolutely, Sarah. Thank you for asking. So it's been really cool because every time we travel somewhere, we're able to share that with our students. And we've kind of, I know I have, I think you have, Jonathan has as well, been able to kind of turn it into a game, like a where in the world is Mr. Adam, where in the world is Mr. Jonathan? And
Oh, really? That sounds so
yeah,
fun. I would love to be in that class.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was particularly fun with coming to Kenya because my students were used to me being either in Europe or very close to Europe, because we did Turkey, Georgia, Greece. So they were guessing European countries, and I have to get them, okay, I'm not on the European continent, I'm not in Asia, I'm not in Antarctica. So we're narrowing down the continents now. So yeah, it was fun, turning it into a game, but also like sharing our experiences with them is really nice. And like when we started off in Turkey, Istanbul is just overrun with cats, as you probably know, Sarah. And we had cats that were living outside of the apartment that we were staying in. And some of my students got very, very attached to those cats. I still have students, like kindergarten students, who ask me if their cats are outside. I'm like, no, I'm not in Turkey anymore. But yeah,
Oh, that's adorable.
it's really cute. Yeah.
That is adorable.
Yeah, but I think sharing the experiences with them is extremely valuable.
For sure, yeah. They love being a part of the adventure, I think, as well, because a lot of them don't have the opportunity to do that right now, just because of the situation that we're in. And that's something that we always want to be sensitive to as well, because we don't want to seem like we're abusing the privilege of being able to travel. We understand how fortunate that we are right now to be able to do this. And we're always trying to make sure that we explain to our students that this is the situation that we've been given, and so we're doing it safely, we're doing it to the best of our abilities, but we also want to show you what the world is like, so therefore you can be able to go out one day and make those experiences your own and make your own memories and share that with other people as well.
I think it's just a beautiful and refreshing reminder to students, especially if or especially when they are dealing with these, I hesitate to say trying times, because everyone is saying trying times and it's like a broken record. It loses its meaning. But during these times, these extraordinary times, it's especially important to remind children of the possibilities, these wide open possibilities that they might not have imagined that certain things are possible, but they are, and just widening that scope for them. And it reminds them, seeing you guys travel the world and still be able to do that when during this situation, can sort of just open their minds a little bit, so they have more of like a growth mindset to the way that they're looking at the world. I think it gives them a little bit more hope. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true. That's an incredible thing we get to do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed hosting it. Do send us any questions you might have or share with us an encouraging story about online learning. And thank you so much, Jonathan and Adam.
Thank you, Sarah. It's
Thank
been
you,
great.
Sarah. Appreciate it. We had such a blast. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
All
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.